Let me rant about the zoo. I am not a fan of zoos. I never have been and I never will be, not unless they get held to much higher standards at the very least. I support safari parks. Safari parks do a lot of good work, and you know, they give the animals a really good space, a good environment. If you don't see the animals because they want to hide away, so be it, you know, I don't mind that. I don't mind. I'd rather an animal that doesn't want to see people that day has the space in its enclosure to go off and hide where humans can't see it. Because honestly, I relate. Like, sometimes I don't want to see people either. But this zoo, I'll show you what it is. So we came in here and then we sort of went around here and then like up through here. But I mean, we filmed some of it. We didn't film all of it. Some bits just made us too sad, so yeah, we did not film it at all. But yes, as you come in here, this bit, the majority of it is open, so like the birds can fly, and then there's this bit and there's these birds, the white storks, and they are just in little cages and they can't fly out, which felt a bit, you know, weird to me. But it said that they were endangered or something and that zoos were helping to breed them, so I was like, okay, sure. But then we came around to, and we went in here, so it's like the small animal bit, and there was so many of them in such a small space, and the smell was really strong. Like, I don't know, I hope that they were just there on display for the day. I know that's still not good, but I hope at night they got put like somewhere that was a lot bigger, because they did not have enough space. There was so many of them in such a tiny space. I felt awful. And then there was ponies, and oh my gosh, like these were fluffy ponies. They had long fur and you could see their hip bones sticking out of their sides, and like on one of them you could literally see its spine. And I'm sorry, but they also had no food. Like, they are grazing animals and they had no food. They also had down here other animals like emus. Well, I say emus, there was one singular emu by itself and it was just pacing up and down in this tiny enclosure. And then what else was there? There was something else that was another grazing animal and it had zero food. I think, no, it was the goats. There was some goats there and there was two goats. They had no food and they looked too skinny, and they had a very small area as well. Yeah, the kangaroo enclosure literally looked like this. There was like one tree and the rest was just bare. And I don't know if it's just me, but like, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there's nothing for them to do. And again, it wasn't a big enclosure. So I was like, what? And some of the other foreigners as well. I walked past one foreigner and she literally walked up to the kangaroo cage, like made a disgusted face, like, and then just turned away and went back to her family and was like, let's not go there. Because it's genuinely sad to see animals like that. They're just sitting there because there's nothing for them to do. We went to the vivarium, and this guy here, the Galapagos tortoise, I'm not kidding, we almost cried. We had to like, genuinely, we had to just walk away because he was in a tiny enclosure and it smelled awful. And like, I don't know if anyone has seen a Galapagos tortoise, but they are huge, and it took him a few seconds to walk from one end of his enclosure to the other, and it was like that. So there was literally, that was the widest bit he could walk down, and it took him a few seconds. And then there was at the edge of the enclosure there was like wooden posts and then the glass, and at one point he was trying to get past the wooden posts and it was so sad. Like he was trying to push them down and he kept stumbling, and it was just, oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. We almost cried. And then we actually didn't see the okapis. They were inside. We walked past their outside enclosure, but we didn't go inside to see them. There were 2 giraffes. Again, their enclosure was completely bare. There was a couple of trees, but they had had branches of food put up for them, like along here, along the railing, so that people could see them better. But the branches were bare. Like there was a couple of leaves left on them, that was it. And then the rhinos, there was 2 of them. Again, tiny enclosures, completely bare, nothing for them to do, and they were just walking up and down. That was it, just walking up and down. And then the hippos, oh my gosh. The hippos genuinely upset us because there was a few of them and they were trapped outside. Like obviously they had an inside bit where they go at night or whatever, but they weren't allowed in it during the day. So the hippo, the big one, it was outside on this really small enclosure. There was like a ledge and then it could go down to a place where, I know obviously it's supposed to be filled with water, but it isn't. And it was with its back to the crowd, and there was a huge crowd of people just stood there going like, oh wow. And this poor hippo was so distressed. It was like banging constantly for minutes on the door trying to get in because it didn't want to be outside. And then it started crying, like it started shouting, and it was such a horrible sound to hear. My friend and I were just like, no, we can't stay here, this is just horrible. And then the zebra, there was one lone zebra. Why was there one lone zebra the zebra again had no food, had a tiny enclosure that was completely bare. There was nothing for it to do. Like they could have taken the separation away from here and just had the zebra and the goats in together. Why wouldn't they have done that? It was so stupid. Like the zebra looked so depressed, like it was not moving, it was just stood there hanging its head low. Like, oh, it was so frustrating. Literally the only good thing I have to say about this entire thing was the lemurs. Like the lemurs had this little island to themselves and a little hut there, and as we were walking past here they saw their zookeeper approaching up here, and to be fair, none of them made a run for the gate. None of them wanted to escape, which animals not wanting to escape is generally a good thing. And they seem to absolutely love their zookeeper. Like she came out and fed them apple. They obviously seemed like they trusted her and really liked her, so that was a good thing, but I can't say much else was. I'm not gonna rant too much more, but you can see there was a lot here. We actually didn't see everything because the zoo started closing, but the tiger, they had one singular tiger. And before anyone tries to say tigers are meant to be kept alone, no animal should be kept alone. Like no animal is alone in the wild for their entire life. Not one single animal is alone for its entire life. Like tigers should not be kept alone. I'm sorry, they just shouldn't. And this tiger was alone, and it actually had a decent size enclosure. It had a nice enclosure, but it was so stressed and so starving. Like it was skinny. It was really skinny, and it was like holding its head at the side like this as it just paced in one tiny little section. It was like pacing up and down 2-meter sections, just one 2-meter section of its enclosure. And like we saw it and we were like, I can't I just can't, I can't, because it was so upsetting to see. Like, tigers should not be starved. They should not be that skinny. Just because an animal can survive on one meal per week, it doesn't mean that's how it's supposed to live. It's not in the wild right now. You need to feed it every day. Like, one meal a day even would be so much better for that tiger than whatever the hell they're doing to it. Like, humans can survive on only having one meal in a week. Like, it doesn't mean we do, you know? It's healthy for us to eat every day. And it's healthy for tigers to eat every day. It just blows my mind that that tiger was so skinny. Like, it was obviously not being fed every day. Obviously not. And it just, oh. I don't recommend you going to that zoo. Do not give it your money. Go to the snake cafe instead. That's my whole conclusion. I'm sorry, I ranted for a really long time, but I needed to say that. And yeah, that was my Tokyo trip. We did also go to the Hard Rock Cafe the day that we went to the zoo, because we needed to cheer ourselves up, and it was actually great. We saw Bon Jovi's guitar, Michael Jackson's t-shirt, Elvis's boots, and the food was really good actually. It was really good. So yeah. Sorry about the rant, but it needed to be said. Support safari parks, guys. Yeah. And I'll see you next week. Bye!